Hawthorne Sycamore. I hope you're enjoying the lovely day today. I've got two people with me, so if you hear some panting, it's most probably Pep, who always likes to be by your side, but Cookie, on the other hand, has been very sensible and gone in her bed, which I've put in the shade. But Pep always likes to be beside you or by your feet, so you'll most probably hear him now, panting whilst I read part 6 of our class read of the Skylarks War. Right, where do we get up to? Rupert in uniform, that was right. So Clara started her new school, and Rupert's just gone from boarding school. Nobody knows where he's gone. He's gone with his Irish friend. We don't know his name. And the next chapter is chapter 12, and I asked you, what do you think this chapter will be about? And it says, Rupert in uniform. It was 1914. Britain was at war with Germany, and Rupert had joined the army. The grandparents in Cornwall acted like it was the end of the world. Peter was appalled. For the first time in his life, he and his father were in agreement. When Clara tried to stick up for Rupert, they both snapped, "You don't understand." It was true, she didn't. And that time of her life was almost blank when it came to news of the war. Peter communicated nothing. Her father had never left his newspapers about since she had so ungratefully deserted Miss Pinksy's. Miss Vane was icily distant. Rupert had vanished, or so it seemed, until one day in August there was a great bang on the front door and calling in the street, come out, wherever you are." And there was Rupert, taller, broader, browner, eyes sparkling, laughing with delight at the sight of Peter, staring from an upstairs window at Miss Vane's hands clasped to her heart as she peeked through the curtains, at Mrs. Morgan's great bellows, "Ha!" and most of all, Clary's flight to be the first to reach him. He swung her in circles, kissed her on both cheeks and said, "I've got 2 hours. Aren't you going to let me in?" They let him in, and they gazed at him. He was in uniform, khaki brown, brass buttons, pockets everywhere. A flat-peaked khaki cap was pushed way back on his head. He looked wonderful. "I left my kit at the station," he said, as if it was the most natural thing to have in the world to have a kit. "We're on our way to camp. Gosh, this is already going to be better than school." "Good thing Father's not home," said Peter, said Clara. "Yes," in a thankful agreement without taking her eyes off this new glowing Rupert. "I know, I'm the family's disgrace," he said, grinning. "Hurry up, don't waste your time. Where should we go for lunch?" "What? I don't see you both for ages. Grab a jacket. Pete, Clara, stop worrying." "But this dress, it's fine. Blue? Is it blue? Quite all right. Shall I get my Sunday white? What do people wear for lunch? I've got a skirt Vanessa gave me." "Clara, you're fussing. Come on, get a hat or something. Peter, ready?" "Money," mumbled Peter, his cheeks burning red with shame. "I've got it. We'll grab a cab at the corner." "A cab?" protested Clara. Cabs were going to the train station when you had more luggage than you could carry. But still, willy-nilly, she found herself being driven down the street with Rupert in front and Peter beside her. And soon they were seated in the dining room of a large hotel, and she was being confronted with a menu as big as an atlas. "Hurry, Cornish lobster." "Hooray, Cornish lobster," said Rupert, reading over her shoulder. "Ice soup, lobster salad, lemonade. Clara, ginger beer, raspberry, beer for me. What about you, Pete?" "A beer for you." "Yes, all right," said Peter. "But stop talking so loudly, and I don't like lobster. I'll have something plain." "Ham," suggested Rupert, and ordered ice soup, ham, hot rolls, lobster salad, deviled chicken, minted new potatoes, raspberry fizz, 2 cold beers, and Napoleon ice with strawberries to follow. "Are you sure you have enough money?" asked Clara, as this appalling array of food was piled all around them. "What if you haven't?" "Well, leave you two to wash the dishes, and me and Pete will run for it," said Rupert cheerfully. "Come on, tell me the news. Have you had any more parties? Has Mr. Morgan taught you how to play a Spanish guitar? How is lovely Vanessa? Did they miss me at school, Pete, when I wasn't there for speech day?" But it was impossible to talk properly, impossible even to believe that we're here, in this ridiculous hotel, here was Rupert, and that very soon, in less than an hour, he would be gone. And meanwhile, he had brought them all this food, so how could they not eat it? And suddenly there was less than 30 minutes for him to catch his train. So here was another cab, lurching horribly at the bends, and Rupert would be leaving them at the station. And how could you say goodbye to someone in a cab? It was awful. He was gone. Clara and Peter walked silently home together, parted without words, and spent the afternoon being clammy and privately sick. Chapter 13. Over by Christmas. I think you remember that's what they all said. They thought the war would be over by Christmas, but we know very well that it wasn't. Clara had to be Clary had to keep reminding herself that the thing that mattered most of all was that Rupert was happy. Every day, while her father complained, Clary remembered the happiness of Rupert. The grandparents actually planned to visit him in his training camp in an effort to intervene. They even demanded that Clary's father should go along with them. "I don't see what I could possibly be expected to do," he said petulantly to Clary. "It's not as if the boy, Rupert and I, are even close." "No," agreed Clary, and wrote to warn Rupert. "The grandparents and father come to see you. They think there might still be a way of getting you back." "I think Rupert loves being in camp with his friends," she said to her father. "Can't you tell the parents not to worry? Not to worry about the waste of years and years of expensive education. Not to worry there's a chance that the grandson will be going to war. Of course he won't. He's not even trained and it'll be over by Christmas. But even so, no, Clary, I don't think I can tell them not to worry." He went off with them a day or two later and came back in a temper. "Blasted boy, turned up on a motorbike," he fumed. "Told us he was planning to buy a banjo. I didn't hear an intellectual remark from him all afternoon, let alone a word of apology to anyone. He sent you his love, for what it's worth." "Did you give him the cake that Mrs. Morgan and I made for him?" asked Clary. "I didn't go all that way to deliver cake," snapped her father, and stamped grumpily away. "Grandfather has gone to London to see a friend who might help him," wrote Clary to Rupert. "The friend is in the army. He still wants to get you out. What are you doing all this time in camp?" "Lots of things," wrote back Rupert. "Trick biking and getting really good at jumps. Cooking, once we roasted a whole pig. Signalling with Morse code and field telephones. Tremendous games of football. 30 players on each side. More sometimes. Miles and miles of exploring. We make up maps afterwards of villages and orchards and where to find mushrooms and pubs with warm fires." Clary, who had no idea how much had been left out of this description, thought it sounded wonderful. "What do you think's been left out of the description?" Peter was back at school for the autumn term and so not to be able to share Rupert's letter, but Vanessa read it. Vanessa said, "That poor pig, but I do love crackling. They did it on a spit, just like in the olden days." "Did they? Well, that's what it looked like. He drew a little picture in his letter to me. I think he's enjoying himself." "But what will he do next? Everyone except my dad says the war will be over by Christmas, Clary." "What?" Clary jerked herself back from the last word she had heard. "In his letter to me. I know he wants to be sent abroad." "Does he?" "So he says. But there are awful casualties already. They bring them back on trains." "Trains? From France? But they're seized. How?" "Oh, Clary, of course they put them on ships in between. I thought I might be a nurse, a VAD. The VAD is the Voluntary Aid Detachment. Think how wonderful I'd be." "But what about living in Paris, designing beautiful clothes?" "Well, obviously that's off until at least afterwards. I'm leaving school anyway." "Vanessa!" "Well, I'm a dunce. Clary, let's face it, my dad's been recalled to active service in the Navy. He was hardly retired for even a year. Simon's away at school, so Mum wants me to close the house and go and stay with my aunt. My great aunt, that is. She lives in a village 9 or 10 miles out of town, and I'm bored with school. I'd rather do something real. I'd rather be a wonderful nurse. I can't bear sick people. I'd have to get them better in no time, just to stop them annoying me." Clary laughed and said, "But are you old enough?" "Probably. I am so tall I can look older if necessary. That's cheating." "Everybody cheats. What did your dad say about the war, Vanessa?" "Easier to start than finish," said Vanessa, suddenly serious, "and definitely not over by Christmas, this year or next." Vanessa's father was right. Christmas came, with no Rupert returning. Vanessa was away training and Simon was with his mother and his great aunt. However, on Christmas morning, Peter produced gifts for the first time in his life. A pencil box filled with pencils, a tiny knife to sharpen them with for Clary, and a Christmas card for his father, and a carefully engraving of a big plain building surrounded by fields and beech trees. Said his father, looking at it. "It's school," said Peter helpfully. "The art master made the Christmas cards to help raise money for the chapel roof. That's a chapel. That's my form room this year. That's the door for staff and visitors, but we all have to go in at the side. You can't see where I sleep because the dorms are around the back. I thought you might be interested." "Well, thank you," said his father. "Very, thoughtful. What's this then, Clary?" Clary, who hurried forward with her own present before Peter made any more pointed remarks, said, "Open it. Happy Christmas, Father. There's yours, Peter. Happy Christmas to you too." It was a scarf for each of them, knitted by herself, green for her father, striped dark and light blue for Peter. "That's actually quite nice," said Peter, sounding very surprised indeed. And Clary's father said, "So that's what you've been up to," as if he'd been worried about far worse, and then completely stunned them both by producing 2 small packages of his own. In each was a watch, an actual silver watch ticking. Peter was so startled that he let his guard down enough to exclaim, "Gosh, gosh," while Clary stared at hers with tears running down her cheeks. How often she had tiptoed down to the 2 flights of stairs from her room to check the time in her hall. or raced across town, fearing she was late, paused by shop windows searching for clocks. "Thank you," she said at last. "A watch will help with everything. Thank you, thank you, thank you." And so, despite no Rupert and no party, the extreme toughness of Clary's roast chicken and the oddness of her Christmas pudding, it was quite a happy day, all in the tall, narrow house. In the new year, they had news from Rupert that he was being posted to France. He sent a jubilant letter to Clary. "Nothing could be better. Bonjour, la belle France, and goodbye, dusty old Oxford. Clary, I rely on you and Peter to pass on all the gossip." "Hooray," said Clary. "The grandparents won't be able to get him now. However many people grandfather goes to talk to go in London." "Are you mad?" asked Peter. "La belle France. I bet he doesn't even know where he's fighting, what he's fighting for." "He's not fighting. He's not a proper soldier," said Clary. "He wants some fun, that's all." "There's wanting fun," said Peter, "and there's shooting people. Rupert would never shoot anyone." Peter looked at the photograph that arrived with the letter. It showed Rupert in uniform holding a gun. He had signed it, "Love to everyone. Au revoir, mi amis. A bientôt." "He thinks he's in France already," said Peter. "I suppose he won't have to shoot anyone if he can get close enough. That's a bayonet fitting on his gun." "What's a bayonet fitting?" asked Clary. "It's a long, thin—" Peter suddenly stopped. What use, after all, to fighting Clary? He tried to speak more flippantly. "Rupert had better watch out for German boys. They might want some fun too." Peter's voice trailed away. What right had he been to be flippant? Even more than he hated the thought of fighting, he hated the fact that his own cowardly jump from a train meant he could never take part. It was hard to hide the despair he felt for Clary in his comfortless house, for ridiculous Rupert, for the summers that were so far away, for all the Ruperts and Clarys caught up in the hardly understood war, and for himself and his aching, stiffened leg that would always hold him aside. Presently he reached out for Clary's hand, and later began to cry, and after a while Clary whispered, "Does it hurt?" And he said, Yes, it does. I'm sorry." And then chapter 14, which I will read for you tomorrow, is called Tripe Sausages. I wonder if you can find out what tripe sausages are. I think we'll be finding out a little bit more about what Rupert ends up doing. And the chapters seem to be getting a lot shorter because more action is happening and there's lots of change in times. Anyway, I'm going to stop there for today. We're about nearly halfway through now, which is quite impressive. And I will read the next part for you tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day in the sunshine and take care and stay safe. Bye.